Sorry, folks, just give me a minute. I have to adjust that. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Well, as long as everybody can see and hear me, that's good. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our misdemeanor calendar for today, January 25th, 2025, and this is going to be the first appearance for misdemeanor cases. Um, If you are a defendant who has been recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail, this would be your first appearance before a judicial officer. Please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. When I call your individual case, I will let you know what is your new accusation number, what are the charges that have been brought against you, to appoint counsel when necessary, and also to set a bond. Some of you may qualify for what we call a signature bond, in which you won't have to pay for your bond today, but you would have to comply with certain conditions. Otherwise, some others may qualify for what we call a surety bond or a cash bond. And in order to secure release, you would have to pay for your bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. Certain conditions may also attach to those bonds. So, Ms. Bridgewater, what's our reset date for
Yes,
these
Your Honor,
cases?
it's February the 6th.
Okay, February the 6th, right? Let's see. That's much better. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to adjust the camera over here. Okay, February 6th. And also, those of you who are appearing via Zoom, if you are not an attorney, if you are a family member or a victim or a friend here in support, or if you're not an attorney and not a member of the courthouse staff, please keep your Zoom panel on mute and switch your video off. Switch your video off. Okay. Okay, courtroom 2, who do we have first?
Position number 4, Mr. King.
This is Damon King, accused of battery from January 24th, 2025, under accusation number 25CR 404C. This is Mr. King's 7th arrest cycle. Who's representing him?
I am, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon, Ms. McLeod. And anything to add, Mr. Howard?
2023 probation, 2022 FTA, 2017 probation. That's it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Yeah, Thomas. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Brief facts of the case is that on December 9th, 2024, the officer was dispatched to the location of 3030 Forest Side Lane, South Fulton in Fulton County, Georgia, in reference to an assault. The victim advised that her ex-boyfriend, the defendant, had put his hands on her. She stated that they arrived at Mr. King's home and a verbal dispute took place between the two of them. She's advised that during the verbal dispute, they were having issues because she was tired of, I guess, paying for things with her money and wanted to know why he couldn't pay for things with his money. The victim stated that they made it to the house and the defendant refused to let her in the room, and a verbal dispute continued. She stated that the defendant began to choke her and she immediately called 911. The victim stated that the defendant then took her phone, threw it to the floor, and proceeded to grab her by her jacket and threw her to the wall, which caused her to hit her forehead. The victim had a large visible knot on her forehead when officers arrived and scratch marks on her neck. Our office was fortunate enough to get in contact with the victim in this case. The victim is Maya, Maya Smith, traditional spelling. And she confirmed the events in the warrant. She said he kind of choked me. Our office was able to do a strangulation assessment. She states that she no longer speaks to him. She states that just as last week, he logged into, I guess fraudulently, but he logged into her Instacart account and used her account against her will. She stated that that was the last incident and the last time she communicated with him. She requests a no further contact with him. The victim lives with her mother, and she does not want the defendant to have, they don't have any children together, and she would like for the defendant to participate in anger management. She stated that she believes the defendant has had these issues from childhood, and I do believe that she's on the call. So if we could sign for her in accordance with Marcy's law, that'd be greatly appreciated. The request from the state is a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no contact with the victim, and the completion of anger management of an anger management course. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
All right, Ms. Maya Smith, I see that you're on Zoom. Did you want to contribute to the proceeding? You would need to unmute.
No, I'm fine.
Okay, then
Name is-
please mute your screen if you have nothing to add. Ms. McLeod? Any
Yes, Your Honor.
objection to the stay away or the no contact?
No objection to any of that, Your Honor. The only thing I heard the state ask for that I would object to is the anger management. My client has no anger issues. He strongly denies that he even put his hand on the alleged victim, Your Honor, and he has told me I will be representing him going forward, that he has about 6 people who were actually there on the scene who would be willing to testify as to what happened. So he has no history of violence at all, Your Honor, and denies that he ever even placed his hand on this.
All right. Thank you. Mr. King, with regards to your bond, it's going to be 2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, and that's going to be a level 2 report. You report to pretrial twice a month. You're to have no further contact with Maya Smith. You're to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. You're also to stay away from any location where she lives, where she works, or wherever she's physically located. If you attempt to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, you could be your bond could be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond, or even no bond status, depending on the nature of the contact. Let me see on his record. Mr. Howard or Mr. Pierre Thomas, do you know what the alleged probation violation was in 2023? What was the underlying offense?
Let me look it up. I don't think I saw any violence. Hold on.
I have in my notes that his history is essentially comprised of drugs and driving offenses.
Okay. All right. While he's out on a signature bond, he will enroll and complete 12 anger management classes. He will enroll in those classes within 45 days of being released. While you are on a signature bond, Mr. King, you're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcoholic beverages, and you're not allowed to own or possess any firearms. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. So if you do not live with Ms. Smith, make sure you update the court with your mailing address in writing within 30 days of being released. Thank you.
Your Honor, they've never lived together.
That's
And
even
this
better.
incident happened where my client was, not at her address.
Okay, well, if he changes address, make sure we find that out in writing.
Hey, Judge, can I speak?
Mr. King, you
No.
have a right to remain silent. If you choose to waive your right to remain silent, anything you say,
Mr.
And-
King,
go ahead, Ms.
there's
McLeod.
no need for you to speak. We've already taken care of your bond, and this is not the trial of your case.
No.
All right, next case, please. Ms. Smith, you're free to go.
Next, we could go to position number 3, Mr. Hood. Laura.
Sit down.
Yeah. We have Mr. Mosley.
All right, we're going to move on to Javon Hood, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property from January 24th of this year, case number 25 CR 403F. Mr. Hood, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is going to be Ms. Thomas. And I understand that Mr. Hood, this will be his 8th arrest cycle, couple of issues in 2022. Anything else to add, Mr. Howard?
Trespass convictions and weapons charged from 2016. That's it.
All right. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
Brief facts of the case is that on January 24, 2025, the officer was dispatched to a construction site located at 1167 Ridge Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia, here in Fulton County, Georgia, in reference to a criminal trespass. Upon arrival, the officer spoke with the construction site superintendent, who's known as Mr. Connor Hatch, who is a representative of Stafford Development, who advised that an unknown male broke out a window on October 12, 2024. Mr. Hatch also advised that the male made several return visits and would leave prior to the employees arriving in the morning. Mr. Hatch further advised that during those visits, the unidentified male, the defendant, defecated, urinated, and started fires at the location. The officer was able to canvass the construction site and located the defendant sleeping inside of the building, and later identified him as the defendant in this matter. Our office was able to get in contact with Mr. Hatch. He confirmed the events in the warrant. He also stated that they had kicked him out of the building, the defendant out of the building, more than one time. I don't believe that he's on the call, but the request from the state in this matter, Your Honor, is going to be a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and a stay away from that incident location, and no further contact with Mr. Hatch.
Ms. Thomas, is your client residentially challenged?
He is, Your Honor. He did express that to me. However, he did state that he also stays with a sister from time to time. So it seems like he may stay with a sister, and the next minute he may stay with another family member. But outside of that, he's been residentially challenged, Your Honor.
Okay. His bond is going to be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. No further trespass at 1165 Ridge Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia. He's to stay 200 yards away from that entire construction site. If he returns to that property, his signature bond will be revoked and changed to either a cash bond or a surety bond. So, Mr. Hood, if you return to the property or to the building where you were arrested, you will be arrested and brought back to jail. Please remember to bring $2,000 with you the next time. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. You will have to make sure that you keep up with your court dates. If you miss your next court date, your bond can also be revoked. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Can I speak?
No, Mr. Hood. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call after court has concluded, but it's not in your best interest to speak about your case at this time.
I just wanted to ask, does it have any like, do I have any, I just want to ask, this is very vital. Do I have any felonies on my record?
Once you're released, you can go to the police and ask for your criminal history record. You're free to go. Thank you.
Next, we can go to position number 2, Mr. Hobson.
Mr. Absalom Hobson is accused of simple battery from January 24th, case 25 CR 402J. Mr. Hobson appears to be, this is his 4th arrest cycle, resident of Alabama, has open cases in Delaware, as well as Pennsylvania, seems to be a multi-state offender.
Nah,
Anything to add?
it's Delaware, not Penn.
Oh,
They had Pennsylvania on the bond
okay, that's
assessment,
still
but I looked at the
Delaware?
history. It's Delaware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
What the assault, the damage to property, the other assault and breach of release, and a 2021 possession of marijuana conviction.
All right. Mr. Pierre Thomas, anything to add?
No, nothing to add, Your Honor. Very brief facts is that the defendant is alleged to have struck the victim in this case, Christina, Christina, Smith, traditional spelling, in the lip and face area. He pushed her on the bed and scratched her on the neck, and then continued to attack her in the bedroom area. Our office was able to get in contact with Ms. Smith. She confirmed that her and the defendant were in a relationship. She stated that this is the first DV incident. She confirmed the events in the warrant, and she added that the defendant actually choked her. She stated that she could not breathe during the incident. She stated that the defendant held her hostage and would not let her leave the bathroom. The victim also stated that the defendant held her hostage for about an hour and a half. The victim is currently in the Army. The victim states that she would like to see the defendant held accountable. And she also states that the defendant has some MH issues and issues with taking medication. She also believes that he needs some anger management classes while out on bond. She also is in, she states that she does fear the defendant and that she wants no further contact, a stay away from her home, which would be listed as the 111 Johns Wesley Dobbs Avenue, apartment 2112, location in Atlanta, 30303. I do believe that she is on the call. And so if we could sound for in accordance with Marcy's, that'd be greatly appreciated, Your Honor. But given the nature of everything and the potential for us to escalate this matter for the presence of false imprisonment, the state would be requesting a $2,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, a no contact with the victim, a stay away from that location, and the completion of an anger management course. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Right. Miss Christina Smith, I see a Christie on Zoom. If you are the person involved in this case and if you want to say something, this is your time to unmute and start your video. All right, Miss Thomas, anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. My client adamantly denies the allegations in the warrant and the allegations that was just made aware to us by the state. Mr. Hobson is 22 years of age. He is a resident of Alabama. He expressed that he's a full-time student at the University of North Alabama. He's in his sophomore year. He's currently unemployed. He states that he was in Georgia. He had a passport appointment that was canceled due to the snow. He was in the process of getting that passport because he has his grandmother's funeral to attend in Trinidad this upcoming Wednesday, Your Honor. Given his lack of finances, I don't believe he has anyone else that can assist him in the state. He also spoke about how he doesn't live with Miss Smith. He has no personal belongings, so a stay away is not going to be an issue at this point. He doesn't need a law enforcement escort either, Your Honor. They don't share any children. We would be asking for a lowest bond possible if he's not eligible for a signature bond through pretrial, given his lack of finances, Your Honor.
Bond is set at $2,500. It is a surety bond. No further contact with Miss Christina Smith to stay away from the John Wesley Dobb location. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And his next court date will be February 6th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we go to position number 5, Mr. Maudsley.
This is State versus Camarian Mosley, simple battery against a person who is 65 years or older or who is pregnant at the time of the offense, and another count of simple battery family violence. Case number 25CR405Y, alleged incident date December 6, 2024. Mr. Mosley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. McLeod. I understand this is his 5th cycle.
State, you got 5 cycles too?
That is correct.
Okay. You got open Superior Court case, ag assault, cruelty in the first, trespass, and damage to property, 2 counts. It's 24 SC 005606. Another open case, 24 SC 000708. Carrying weapon within the school safety zone, and disrupting public school. I think he went to felony earlier. I'm not sure what happened.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Ms. McLeod? I'm sorry,
yeah,
Mr. Pierre Thomas. Yes, sorry about that.
Brief facts of the case is that on December 6, 2024, the officer was dispatched to the location of 1834 Honeysuckle Lane, Southwest Atlanta, Georgia, here in Fulton County, Georgia. The victim advised that her 1-year-old son, who we refer to as TB, and her brother, I'm not sure if the juvenile status, so we refer to them as CB, and the defendant were in a rental car. The victim explained that a verbal altercation took place between her and the defendant during the driving. And while the situation escalated, the defendant began to drive recklessly around the West End area. The victim advised that the defendant pushed her into the bushes before leaving that location. The victim also advised that she was currently pregnant at the time with the defendant's child. Given the idea that he was out on bond for two Superior Court matters. And then he also, I'm not sure the disposition on the 2023 willful obstruction case out of East Point. The state will be requesting a $2,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no contact with the victim in this case. The victim is Kamori, Kamori Brown, traditional spelling, and the completion of anger management, Your Honor. And I believe that that incident location was just, I guess, someplace they ultimately ended up on during the drive. And so we just like to stay away from any location that she's at. But there's nothing further to add from the state at this time.
All right, Miss Brown, Kamori Brown, if you're on Zoom, I see a KK, so I don't know who that is, but are you Miss Brown? No? Okay, Miss McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor. My client denies the allegations. He tells me that the mother of his child, well, she's pregnant. The child that she has is not his child, but she is in fact pregnant with his child. He says that nothing like that happened at all. She was just a little angry with him. And so she called the police and made those allegations. The address that she gave the police is actually his home. This is where he lives with his parents and a sibling. He did tell me that she said she would be on, but of course I just spoke with him, so I was not able to get in touch with her to hear what she would say. But he told me that she has told him that she was going to come on. She would try to come on to explain to the prosecutors that this incident did not happen at all. And even the warrant is rather vague, Your Honor. It just says that she said he pushed her into some bushes.
All right.
There's really no evidence that anything really happened, Your Honor. My client did go to felony early and he got a bond, so I'm asking the court to consider giving him a signature bond. He really has no convictions at all. So everything else against him are just allegations, but he's not ever been convicted of anything so far. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. A new person has joined the Zoom. If Kamori Brown is on Zoom, this is your time to unmute and start your video. All right. On the simple battery against a person who is pregnant or elderly at the time of the offense, that's going to be 1,500. On the simple battery is 1,000. That's a total of 2,500. Is going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Kamori Brown, to stay away from wherever she lives, wherever she works. And if he shares any children with her, he would need to file a legitimation action to establish any kind of joint visitation or custody with Miss Brown. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and his next court date is going to be February 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. That concludes my business before the court today. May I be excused?
Yes, Ms. McLeod, you have a good day. Oh, weekend rather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this individual by the name of KK and Christy, you need to start your video. Do the attorneys recognize these two individuals? All right. From iPhone, you are free to go. That case is over. And Miss KK, I think you're here for another case, so we're gonna hold off on that. You can switch your video off. Miss Christie, which case are you here for?
Gregory Summers, ma'am.
All right, so please mute your screen. Switch off your video until we address Mr. Simmons. Thank you. And iPhone, Miss Brown, you're free to go. We've already completed that case. All right, courtroom 2, who's next?
Position number 7, Mr. Sherry.
Oh, this is Sherry Venkat. Venkat Sherry, accused of simple battery family violence from January 24th of this year. Case number 25CR398E. Mr. Sherry, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and your right to counsel, and your attorney at the present time is Mr. Jawan Haddad, and this is his first arrest. Ms. Mokeke, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
And what's the state's recommendation?
The state's recommendation is for a signature bond, no further contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, and FVIP, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. This incident happened at 1236 Executive Drive in Alpharetta. The victim told officers her and the defendant were arguing over water boiling on the stove. When the defendant pushed her down and began hitting her in the back, she did complain of back pain. The defendant did tell officers that he struck his wife with an open palm on her arm as she was frustrated. He was frustrated at her for not showing him respect. Our office has spoken with the victim in this case, Ms. Kovita, I believe it's Kanigicharla. She confirmed the events in the warrant, stated the defendant has been hitting her since 2024 of June. This incident is the first time she's called 911. She states that she is afraid of the defendant. They have no children. She states that she was pregnant this past August, but he did force her to terminate that pregnancy, and she is looking to get a divorce soon. She would like the defendant to be held accountable. Of course, she wants no further contact, and he will need a one-time law enforcement escort to retrieve his belongings. I believe Ms. Kovita is the individual with the name KK, so if the clerk could please sound for her.
All right, Ms. Kavita, if you want to unmute and start your video, this would be the time. All right, Ms. Kavita, did you have anything to add? All right.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. Would you like to raise your right hand, please?
Yes.
Would you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Okay.
All right. And are you married to Mr. Venkat or Mr.
Yes.
Sherry? Which
Yes.
one is his first name, Venkat or Sherry?
Sherry is his surname.
Okay. And what's your surname?
My name is Kanigicharla.
Can you spell that for me?
Kanigicharla.
Okay. Kani Gacharla?
Yes.
Okay. And you just heard the prosecutor indicate that you would like to have no further contact with Mr. Sherry and for him to stay away from you. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are you both residents of Georgia? I'm sorry?
Yeah. I'm dependent on him. I came.
Understood.
Oh.
Okay. Mr. Haddad, anything to add?
No, Judge, based on the representation, stay away with one trip with assistance of law enforcement, retrieve his belongings, and of course, no objection to the signature bond through pretrial services, Judge.
All right. Mr. Sherry, on the simple battery family violence, your bond is going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services level 2. You have to report to pretrial twice a month. Within 30 days of being released on bond, you are to enroll in a qualified domestic violence or family violence intervention program. This is a series of 26 classes, and you will have to begin those classes and not skip or miss any of them. And of course, pay for the classes out of your own pocket. You must show your pretrial officer that you have enrolled in the program and that you are, and when you've completed it, present your certificate of completion. After today, you are to have no further contact with Ms. Kavita. You are to stay away from 1236 Executive Drive in Alpharetta, Georgia. You're allowed a one-time visit to the location with a police officer in order to retrieve any personal belongings. But then within 30 days of being released, you shall update the court with your new mailing address, and it cannot be anywhere where Ms. Kavita is living. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Your next court date will be sent to your new mailing address, which cannot be an address that you share with Ms. Kavita. All right, Ms. Kavita, I highly recommend that you consult with an immigration attorney to ascertain your options from this point onwards.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Next case.
Position number 8, Mr. Summers. Wrong way, Summers, so go to the third bench. Yep. Barry.
All right, Miss Christie, you're here for Gregory Summers. You can start your video. Gregory Summers is under accusation 25 CR 399F, and he's accused of the following 3 misdemeanors: simple battery, family violence, and 2 counts of simple assault, family violence, from January 24th, 2025. Mr. Summers, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Haddad. I understand this is his first arrest. Ms. Mokeke, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. Just to put the facts on the record very briefly, this incident happened at 110 Wicksford Glen in Sandy Springs. The victims in this case are Gregory Summers Sr., who is the defendant's father, and Christina Summers, who is the defendant's stepmother. The victim told officers that the defendant came home drunk and began throwing shoes at his father and stepmother. He then went downstairs with his father and began throwing ice cubes at him. The parties engaged in a verbal argument, and the defendant proceeded to push his father. The defendant's younger brother did confirm to officers that he saw the defendant push their father. Our office has spoken with Mr. Summers Sr., who states that he is concerned about his son's drinking and anger. He says his son needs some type of counseling and he's not able to handle these things himself, and that help is needed. He states that his son has been living with him for the past 1.5 years, but he would like the defendant to have some time away from living with them. He does have a sister who lives in Charlotte, and he has lived with that sister before. The victims in this case want no further contact and a stay away. The state's recommendation is a signature bond, no further contact with the victims, stay away from the incident location, and FVIP. If the court is inclined, an ADET might be helpful as well. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I believe both Mr. Summers Sr. and Ms. Christina Summers, as you indicated, are on the Zoom, if you could sound for them.
All right. Miss Christy Summers, if you please not move around and have a seat quickly as possible. And Gregory Summers, if you want to contribute, this is the time to unmute and start your video. Ms. Kavita, I've already completed the case with Mr. Sherry. If you have anything to add, please contact the prosecutor's office. Otherwise, you're free to go. All right, Mr. Summers, Mrs. Summers, you need to unmute if you want to add something to the proceeding.
My son is helping my husband.
Well,
He's on
let's
a
start
different.
with you then, Ms. Christie. Please raise your right hand.
Okay,
Solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
it will be.
All right, and what would you like to add?
It was correct what the prosecutor said.
All right, and how old is Gregory Summers?
He's 34.
All right, and does he have elsewhere to go?
His sister and his mother are willing to take him.
Okay, anything else to add?
No.
Okay, and did your husband want to contribute, or you can use the same Zoom panel that you're using?
He says no. Oh, he says no.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Haddad, anything to add?
No, Judge, no objection to the release pretrial based on the representation of the alleged victims, Judge. I understand the stay away is probably going to be in order by the court. I'll just ask a one-time trip with law enforcement to assist my client to retrieve his personal belongings, Judge.
All right. Well, Mr. Gregory Summers, I think you can already anticipate the bond and the requirements. Your bond is going to be $1,500 on each count. That's a total of $4,500. It is a signature bond through pretrial services. You will report to pretrial twice a month. This is level 2. While you are on pretrial, you shall have no further contact with Christina Summers and her spouse or your father, Gregory Summers. You're to stay 200 yards away from them. You're not to communicate with them in any way, form, or manner, including in person, third party, mail, email, phones, and even on social media. You're allowed a one-time visit to the home that you shared there at, I think it was 110, was it Vicksburg, Glen?
Wicksford, Wicksford.
Yeah. You're allowed a one-time visit to that location with a police officer. That visit cannot exceed 1 hour, and you are to remove your personal belongings from that location. Within 30 days, then, you are to update the court with a new mailing address, whether it's with your sister, your mother, or another location. While you are out on a signature bond, you will enroll and complete a domestic violence intervention program. I will give you 60 days to enroll in such a program, and you must pay for it out of your own pocket. And these are a series of 26 classes, which you'll need to pay for and not miss or skip any classes. Within 15 days of being released, you will enroll and complete either a alcohol and drug evaluation. Well, it'll have to be an alcohol and drug evaluation. And if the medical provider requires you to submit to any treatment, counseling, and or take any medication, you'll be required to be compliant with any and all such treatment. Any questions, Mr. Haddad?
No, Judge.
All right. Mr. Summers, did you have any questions about the bond? Guess not. Next case, please. Thank you, Ms. Summers. You're free to go.
Next, go to position number 1, Mr. Evans.
Do we have a case requiring a Spanish interpreter by any chance? We good, Mr. Haddad? I wasn't sure.
I don't have any, Ms. Thomas.
Position, I think it's position Mr. Rojas's. It's his mom.
Yes.
If his mom attends, she may need a Spanish interpreter, but that's the only case that I can think of. And he's position 6.
All right. Let's go to position 1. This is Famedis Evans, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your first name. Mr. Evans' case is 25 CR 400C, accused of battery, family violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree from August 15th, 2024. Mr. Evans, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Thomas. Any prior, well, I understand this is his 4th.
You got
No,
13
sorry.
total.
13
2019
cycle. Yeah.
suspended license, 2018 FTA, 2016 obstruction conviction, 2015 FTA, and a 2013 simple assault dismissed.
All right, but no battery FE by conviction in the past?
I stopped at 13, so I'm not sure if it's in the beginning of the history.
Okay. Mr. Pierre Thomas?
I didn't see it in his history, but the facts of this case are essentially, Your Honor, is that on August 22nd, 2024, the officer responded to 1890 Myrtle Street, Southwest, apartment 213. The victim advised that on August 15th, however, on 2024, she was assaulted by her boyfriend, who is the defendant. She stated the defendant entered the home and confronted her about messages between her and her male friend. She advised that the defendant started mushing her face. She stated that she attempted to push his hand away and he began to punch her with a closed fist. The victim also reported that the defendant choked her with one hand and threw her into a closet, which broke. The victim's nose bled. The victim's 15-year-old daughter, who's a juvenile who I will refer to as AB, was at the home at the time. The victim indicated that AB came into the room and to intervene. The victim explained that she delayed calling the police because she felt embarrassed and scared. The victim had bruises on her, or had a bruise to her right arm. Officers were able to talk to the juvenile victim, AB, I'm sorry, who also confirmed that she heard her mother in the room arguing with the defendant. She stated that she heard a loud bang, and so she went to the room. She observed the defendant punching her mother and saw him throw her into the closet door. The adult victim in this case, Your Honor, is Nicole, Nicole, Bigger, Bigger. If we could sound for her in accordance with Marcy's law, that'd be greatly appreciated, Your Honor. The request from the state, and this is purely just off the idea that I think the 13 cycles are majority driving-related offenses, and I think probation violations of some sort. But the request from the state is a signature bond through the pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no contact with either victim, the juvenile or the adult, a stay away from the incident location, and the completion of anger management course. Nothing further to add from the state at this time.
Okay. Ms. Thomas?
Yeah, I would just like to request from the court if he would be allowed to have a one-time escort with law enforcement. He did express that he and Miss Biggers were still in a relationship and that he still resided at the location. He does share a 6-year-old son with Miss Biggers as well, Your Honor.
Is the teenager his child too? AB?
No, no, Your Honor. He only has that 6-year-old son that he shares with Miss Biggers, and then he has a daughter that's 10 from a separate relationship.
All right. And I don't see anyone by the name of Nicole Bigger on Zoom. So on the battery family violence, that's going to be a $2,000 surety bond. On the cruelty matter is going to be a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services level 2. This is a $4,500 split bond. If Mr. Evans does make bond, then his next court date will be sent to his new mailing address, and he'll need to update the court with a new mailing address. He's to have no further contact with Miss Nicole Bigger, no further contact with her children, AB, and the child that he shares with her, NB. If he wishes to have custody or visitation with his son, he would need to file a legitimation action with the appropriate superior court and get a court order to establish visitation, custody, and child support. Within 45 days of being released on bond, he will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program and complete all 26 classes without missing or skipping any of them. He's to stay away from 1890 Myrtle Street, that particular apartment. He's allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to remove his belongings, but other than that, to update us with his new address within 30 days. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you. His next
Thank
court date will be February 6th, pending a release on this bond.
Excuse me, Your Honor, what was the bond amount on the cruelty to children?
$2,000 on battery, surety bond. On the cruelty is $2,500 signature bond through pretrial level 2.
Thank you.
All right, next case, please.
We can go to ACDC, Your Honor.
Okay. Deputy Francois, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge Law. If you can please read her rights.
Sure. Is her name Kendi Townsend?
Yes, it is. Thank you,
All right.
Judge.
All right, Miss Townsend, Kendi Townsend. All right. The spelling I have is Kenndi for her first name. Miss Townsend's accused of battery family violence under case number 25 CR 401J. Incident date appears to be January 24th, 2025. Ms. Townsend, this is your first appearance before a judge with regards to this criminal case. Please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you presently is Mr. Haddad. I have 4 arrest cycles with an open case in DeKalb. Anything else, Mr. Holland?
State, you got the same thing?
Yes, I have the same thing.
Okay. Let's make sure. The charges is violation of street gang terrorism prevention, ag assault, hit and run resulting in serious injury or death. 2020 simple assault, battery DV, dismissed.
All right. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor, that 2020 simple assault was 20 CR 005764C. That incident involved the same victim as in this case. That victim is her mother, Miss Angelica Townsend. In that case, she was accused of striking her mother, attempting to tase her, and spitting on her. It looks like she did complete MH court and or pretrial diversion. This incident happened at the incident location 780 Memorial Drive Southeast in Atlanta. The defendant and her mother, Miss Townsend, were having a verbal argument regarding the defendant's phone, which her mother is the owner of. The victim tried to take the phone away from the defendant, and the defendant proceeded to punch her in the face, causing a bruise and swelling around the victim's eye. Our office has spoken with Miss Townsend, who confirmed the events in the warrant. She mentioned that she did tell the officer that her daughter has some MH issues. She did state that she does not want the defendant to return back to the home, but she is requesting no further violent contact. She stated that her daughter has been diagnosed with some MH And she's also suffering from some PTSD as she was a victim of trafficking at a younger age. She is concerned that the defendant is not taking her medication. She's drinking alcohol and also potentially using drugs. She says the defendant has so much going on and she's fighting some demons at this time, that her daughter is a good young lady. She is just dealing with some MH issues right now. And she did confirm that her daughter went through and completed the Fulton County MH court. She believes that her cases out of DeKalb are weighing heavily on her. She is wishing for her daughter to get some more MH help. The state's recommendation at this time is a $3,500 surety bond, stay away from the incident location, FVIP, no further violent contact with the victim if she is on a mental health treatment plan. We do ask that she remain compliant with that. Based on the conversation with her mother, it does look like this young woman is struggling, and the state would be open to any plan from the defense to get her some help and keep her from coming back here.
Mr.
And Ms.
Haddad?
Townsend is on the phone, so I would ask that we sound for her.
Yes, I do see Miss Angelica Townsend. I'll be addressing you shortly. Mr. Haddad, anything else to add?
Your Honor, I mean, this is, I mean, my client is 21 years of age. She's currently unemployed, cannot make any bonds. I mean, I understand the mother's concern. But fact of the matter, she can't afford FVIP, especially now. She's definitely not going to get any mental health treatment in the short term while in custody, Judge. You know, this is a difficult situation. I understand. I spoke to the mother, and I'm sure she'll let the court know. I mean, she's conflicted. She loves her daughter, but at the same time, she's been struggling with those issues. Judge, I would just ask for a release through pretrial. That's her only chance, Judge, to be able to get out before the SAP calendar, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Townsend, if you'd like to contribute, may I place you under oath? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
When did Candy complete the domestic violence program?
I believe it was 2022 when she completed her 2 years of mental health court.
So it was sometime in 2022 or after 2022, in 2023?
No, it was sometime in 2022, I believe.
Okay. And when was she arrested in DeKalb County?
She was actually arrested in March in Fulton. They got her in Fulton, and then they took her to DeKalb County where the issue happened.
Okay. And do you know if your daughter is currently on any kind of health plan? I mean, not a health plan, but any kind of treatment plan right now?
No, Your Honor, I have suggested it to DeKalb that my daughter does need to be on medication. When she was younger, she was on medication, but as she got older, of course, she doesn't take it. I can't make her take it, but when she was with me, I made her take her. Because she's going through what she's going through at DeKalb, she's self-medicating herself with alcohol. And when she was arrested last night, I went upstairs to her where she was staying, and I found cocaine packets and things that she was using to snort. So I know that's playing a lot in what she did last night, but my daughter has a lot of, she's been diagnosed by 4 different doctors since she was
Understand.
little.
I don't want to get into her mental or her health condition. I want to know whether she's on any kind of treatment plan at the present time.
No, ma'am, she's not.
Okay, thank you.
And she doesn't have, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
She's staying with me. She really don't have another place to go because she's on that other bond and she's supposed to stay with me as court order. So I don't know. The only thing I was thinking about was a rehab facility, but I don't know where else she has to go other than with me.
Well, unfortunately, That's going to change. On the battery family violence, a bond is going to be set at $3,500. It is a surety bond. The next court date is going to be February 6th. She's to have no further contact with Angelica Townsend. She's to stay away from the home that she shares with Ms. Townsend. If she makes bond within 30 days, she is to update the court with a new mailing address. Also, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. And if Ms. Townsend makes bond, she would need to make sure that she she enrolls in a alcohol and drug evaluation as well as a MH evaluation and submit and be compliant with all treatment and medication. If she gets arrested again, she would jeopardize this bond and end up in a no bond status. So please be mindful, Ms. Townsend. This is now another open case against you. Your next court date will be February 6th. And hopefully, Mr. Haddad, if you can have a social worker visit her to see where she stands at the present time. Thank you.
Judge, you said it's a $3,500 good bond, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You too. All right. Let us begin with courtroom 2. Do we have Daniel Rojas?
Your Honor.
All right. And let's see now. Miss Angelica Townsend, we can remove her from the Zoom. Okay. Miss McLeod is still here. Victim advocate. All right.
Your Honor, I asked for Mr. Rojas. I sent them the link for this hearing, his parents.
All right. And unfortunately, I don't have a Spanish interpreter, so I'm going to move forward.
Yes.
All right. Have we, and we need to pause or stop the live stream, please.
Okay, Judge.